तेल है, जो चमक में आग, तेरा साईं तुझ में है, तू जाग सके तो जाग. This is a beautiful Hindi couplet written by a very famous poet called Kabir Das. It's also called a doha in Hindi. It's philosophical, but let me try and interpret the essence of it to make it relevant for our discussion today. It says, just like a sesame seed has oil within it, and a flintstone has firepower at the core, your God or your awakening is within you. Realize it if you can. I went through my education at an undergraduate level in economics, followed by an MBA. And as one can quite traditionally expect, I had a fairly substantial-ish corporate stint. I started out in the telecommunications sector. Those were the days that mobile was a sunrise industry. And moved on to healthcare, and even found myself at the helm of Scottish Rugby as the head of brand. I know. Till about 20 months ago, before we moved back to the beautiful city of Lincoln, and I started working at the university, I was the head of marketing for Microsoft in India. So fair amount of time to learn, to grow, and to meet people. It was at that time in my corporate world, as an emerging woman leader, that I got access to a lot of platforms. It's very fortunate to get access to platforms, to speak, to share, to moderate, and I had the most fascinating conversations and interactions with people, as you can imagine. It was then that I met some very competent people, sometimes men, but mostly women, who would gravitate towards me, and they were full of questions. They were full of questions on their career, on their next steps, on what they wanted to do, always talking about that recipe for the secret sauce of success that they were looking for. They knew they were competent, they knew they had it within them, and they knew that they could move on, but they just didn't. It was then, in those conversations, that they would talk about the concept of the glass ceiling. They shared with me how they felt as they stood by the sidelines and watched the world pass on and their peers make progress, and they didn't make progress. And when a conversation comes on about women and their careers, it invariably goes hand in hand with the infamous glass ceiling. We all have heard of the glass ceiling. It's that unacknowledged barrier to growth in a profession mostly affecting women. Now, there is plenty of literature available on the glass ceiling, and I'm sure a lot of us have read up about it as well. And it is tangible because we know it's there. However, what strikes me about the glass ceiling on reflection is the fact that it quite conveniently shifts the responsibility of slow or no growth onto an external source. That external source could be professional, or it could be a personal external source that stops us. But stops us, it does. And out of our control, it is, often making us feel quite helpless. And helpless is not a good place to be. So it was 3 years later that I found myself invited to Las Vegas to speak to a room full of women who were invited from various walks of life. They came from different starting points, different careers, different thoughts in their head. And as you can imagine, in a room full of women, the conversation shifted quite effortlessly between careers, aspirations, children, work-life balance, and then the glass ceiling. So it was then, in that conference, that I came across a term that would completely change my perspective on how success or the lack of it can be viewed. And the conversations since that day have never been the same. That was the concept of the sticky floor. There is limited literature available on the sticky floor, but all of it alludes to the discriminatory pattern of employment at the bottom of the pyramid. But that day in Las Vegas, 3 years ago, I saw it differently. My definition wasn't quite that. I saw the sticky floor to represent a state of mind where we know we're competent, we know we're capable, but we let the opportunities pass us by. We are quite comfortable being where we are, and we cling on to that comfort zone, not wanting to push ourselves forward, although knowing that we are competent. So the sticky floor then becomes diametrically opposite to the glass ceiling. But the glass ceiling passes the responsibility to somebody else. The uniqueness of the sticky floor is that it shifts that responsibility back onto us. So sticky floor, responsibility, back onto us. I decided to put this to the test. So at every platform that I got to speak at thereon, when the conversation got warm and pretty hot and about careers and about aspirations and about the class ceiling, I would gently introduce the concept of the sticky floor. As you can imagine, at first, there was silence. And then the heads would nod in agreement. In the acknowledgement that the power to create opportunities lay in our hands. And the conversations and the process of discovery really started there. The very next logical question was, so how do I do that? How can I get myself off the sticky floor and actually get to achieve what I believe I can achieve? So we looked for a lot of answers. I dug deep into my corporate experience, wanting to bring some of my experience to life. So I shared, I learned, I listened, and we came up with a number of ways in which we can do that. I'm very pleased today to be able to share just 3 of those many that we discussed at work that I feel are implementable, very simple concepts, which you'll be surprised how low the implementation of those is. Why the number 3? Well, because 3 is an angel number. Let's say 3 represents the tripartite of heaven, earth, and water, and it's also the human body, mind, and spirit. So let's go with 3. The first one I'll talk to you about is presence, which is your professional presence, your personal presence. I love this quote by Dr. Sears. It says, "Today you are you, that's truer than true. There's no one alive who's youer than you." Unique, we are unique. And we have the ability to create our presence and craft our presence as we wish to. That ability lies in our hands. And they say that the overlap between how you see yourself and how others view you is really your space to craft your personal brand. So you can see how the larger the overlap of the two, the greater the elbow room you have to create your personal brand. And that ability, ladies and gentlemen, lies in our hands. Needless to say that whatever we do in the space of personal brand must be backed up by dollops of authenticity, because it's only an authentic personal brand that can take you the long way. So sticky flow, the responsibility, back on us. The second one that I'll share with you today is one that I love to talk about, which is network, being your net worth. Now it surprises me how often and how negative the word network means to people, the interpretations that they have of it. Oh, it's crafty, it's not done for the right reasons, it's not done with the right intent, it's rejected by people. I'm not the network types. How often have you come across that? I can't network. But we all network, all the time. What are we doing here today? We've come in to meet people who are like-minded. We're going to share, we're going to listen, and in the process, we're going to grow. So creating a network in a positive way, in positive light, is all about growing. And the day we start seeing it as a positive momentum for ourselves, we change the conversation completely. There are many ways in which you can do this and help yourself network better. Of course, we all possibly do it very well, but there are many of us out there who probably don't. One little tactic that I learned that I'm happy to share with you is called the 5-cup coffee challenge. So it says that in a month, give yourself a timeline, set up a coffee with 5 people who are neither your friends and nor your immediate work colleagues. And you'll be amazed at what you learn of what you would never have had access to and what you shared. And in the process, you all grow. So this power of networking and making it a network is ours. It's in our hands. Sticky flow, responsibility, back on us. The third one that I'll share with you is something I learned very early in my career. It's called informal power, the power of informal power. Now, when I was very young in my career, about 2 or 3 years into working, seems like a long time ago, and I was a junior brand manager, like all junior brand managers, we do a lot of the other work of the office. And I was called into a team to work with a large number of people for an internal event. And you know what kind of work I would have got in that team. So I fretted and I was like, I don't want to do it. I was already workloaded. Oh, it's a drain on my resources and my time. And I rejected the idea. So I decided to walk up to my manager, who was the vice president of the business, and tell him to tell them to take me off it. I didn't want to do it. But what he told me that day has stayed with me forever. He taught me the power of informal power. He told me about the opportunities, the network, and the impacts that I can have that my role would never give me. Because formal power is your badge, is your corner office, is your outcome, is your kudos that you receive because of your current work. but informal power goes much beyond that. I internalize that. I think we all can. If you grab the opportunities that come to you beyond your work or beyond what you define as your work, that power lies in our hands. So responsibility, back on us. Get off our sticky floor. These were just 3 ways in which I thought I would share with you today of what we can do to get off our sticky floor and take those opportunities. But what's common between all of these 3? It is the fact that it's not the glass ceiling. It's about the sticky floor. The glass ceiling shifts the responsibility, the sticky floor gets that back in our hands. And how wonderful is it to have the power of making a difference and a change to ourselves in our hands. The question then comes, is this only in a professional context, or can this also be applied to our personal lives? Well, this is Rama. Rama is a general practitioner, and she has made Lincoln her home for the last 20 years. Rama learned the dance form of Bharatnatyam. It's a beautiful Indian dance form if you haven't come across it, from a very early age. In India, where Rama and I both come from, little girls start learning this dance form at the age of 3 or 4. So by the time they're hitting their teens, 12, 13 or 14, they have they have a public performance or a public stage, their first public stage called the Arangetram. Rama has her Arangetram tonight. Rama is 57 years old. I caught up with Rama to ask her what it was that took her so long to get her Arangetram done when she was so talented. What she shared with me were all glass ceiling moments, environmental caps that didn't allow her to do what she really wanted to. She said, when she was little, while her parents encouraged her to dance, of course, the Arangetram or the public performance wasn't their priority. She accepted it, an environmental challenge. Cap, no problem. When she got married, she married into a Christian family, and Rama's Hindu. She did not want to stream in the religious element of this dance form that would come into their household. She said, fine, it's not for me as yet. In her 30s and 40s, Rama was very busy bringing up her 3 beautiful children, and she prioritized that over herself. Knowing fully that she wanted to really dance and continue the dance form, she accepted it. All 3 environmental issues, all 3 pushed away and told herself, oh, that's why I couldn't do the Arangetram. A couple of years ago, in Lincoln, she met a dance teacher who saw how beautifully talented she was and encouraged Rama to perform on stage. Rama said, no, I'm beyond that time. I can't do it. It was in January of this year that Rama very kindly was in the audience of the Be Inspired lecture series that I spoke at the university. It was there that I introduced the concept of the sticky floor with its implications. The next morning, I received an email from Rama, and it said, thank you so much, Ruchi, for the very inspiring talk. I now realized that I've been on a sticky floor all these years. I've gone ahead and booked my Arangetram at the Lincoln Performing Arts Center for the 30th of June. What's the date today, ladies and gentlemen? It's the 30th of June. And Rama has her Arangetram tonight, and I will very proudly go in and be a part of the audience as she dances. Closer home, and my family is in the audience today, my husband and children, we try to apply this concept of the sticky floor to our own lives. And I'm sharing this because I feel so can we all embrace it. And we find ourselves using this concept so often when we feel we have the power, we want to do, we're just not doing. From trivial situations to situations of strategic importance, it applies because we tell ourselves, Tera sai tujh mein hai, tu jaag sake to jaag. Thank you.